Hello guys, I hope you all doing good. Welcome to another video. Today we are going to create a lightbox component in React. Lightbox is basically image slider that appears in a modal or pop-up. This is a machine coding question that we are going to solve. We have already seen how to create a normal slider, image slider, where we can navigate through an array of images. Also, we have seen how to create a modal component. So in the lightbox, we are going to combine both of those and we are going to create this lightbox. What will happen is whenever you click on the images, a modal will appear that will have that image in the larger canvas, and then you can navigate through the images on the modal itself. And as you navigate on the modal, the active state of the image will be reflected in the gallery on the smaller scale. So the state will be maintained, whichever is the active in the modal will be reflected over there. Similarly, when you click on any of the images in the gallery, it will directly pop up in the modal and it will be visible. Sorry. So let's get started. I already have the modal component over here. I will share the link for how to create the modal in the video, in the description. You can check it out. I'm not going to repeat that. For the slider part, we are going to create it from the scratch so that we can understand how it works. So let's get started. The first thing I'm going to do over here is I'm going to create the images. So I'm going to list them. So here, let's say we have the class name as image viewer or image listing, and then I'm going to list all the images over here. So images dot map, and we are going to return a div. Inside that we'll have the image with alt as the caption and the source as image URL. Now the images are being listed. It is in bigger sizes, so let's align them by adding some CSS. So let's go to style.css, and then here we have image listing. So image listing, we're going to make it display flex, line items center, and then justify content space between. And now after that we are going to say image listing div. We are going to say it's flex 33%, so it's going to take 33% width at the maximum. Here we have to make flex wrap, no wrap, to affect these changes. I guess the style.css is imported, yeah. And then here we are going to say image listing div image width is 100%, so it will be aligned. Now they are aligned in a single line. I think if we grow the basis to 0, it should take 33%. Sorry, we'll have to wrap that to make it effect. And now that this is in the place, we can add the padding, let's say 10 pixel, or margin, either one should work. Let's see, padding 5 pixel. Okay, now we have to update the box sizing because it should take the padding within the dimension of the div rather than it's now taking or calculating it externally. That's why we are seeing 2 images in a row rather than 3. So we just have to say box sizing is border box and then 3 will appear. And now by default this T will have this T or on the image. So let's have on the div only. We'll have border as 3 pixel solid and gray. Okay, so let's have it on the image rather than here. Okay, now it's looking good. And now the active one will have a different color. So dot image listing div dot active, and its image will have border color as sky blue. And here in the div we are going to set the e as e dot caption, and then we are going to add a class name saying that if the index, so if I equals to active, we are going to add active, otherwise we'll have nothing. Now the active is not defined, so let's define that. Const active and then set active using the use state, and here we'll have the default as 0. So now you see the first index, the first image with the blue border, so that highlights that this is the active one. Now if we click on any of these, so on click we'll have handle click, so const handle click, and to this we'll receive the index that we have to set as active, and then we'll pass that over here so that the selected image will become active, and here we'll pass it to the handle click the index. So now you see, if I click on any of these, they are becoming active. Let's add a pointer cursor so that we can provide the user experience that this part can be clicked, so that user can click on that. Now we have the image listing ready. When we click on any of this, we have to show the modal. So let's import the modal. And now we'll render this modal. So just below the image listing, we are going to render the modal. And here right now let's add some dummy text. So I am having an h1 with hello world, and here we are going to say the title as lightbox, and what all parameters this modal accept: children, show, on close, and title. So show, we'll have a state for show, and then on close we'll listen to the event on modal close. So let's create a state for this. Const show set show, and then we are going to use state as false, and here const handle modal close. I think that's okay, it's on modal close, and here we'll set show as false, And when any of the images are clicked, we are going to update the state and we are going to say set show as true. So now what will happen is if we click on any of the images, the modal should appear. See, it is appearing. Now when the modal is appearing, what we have to do is inside the modal we have to show the image slider so that it can be navigated. So let's create that. Const image slider. Here we are going to have two things. One is the image, we are going to preview it in on a largest canvas, and then we are going to have a navigation button next and previous. So we are going to return a div with the class name image slider wrapper, and then we are going to have the div with the class name as navigation or image slider navigation. And here we can have another div that will show the images. Slides. Now let's create another component over here for the slides just to abstract the logic. So here we'll receive the image URL, the caption, and if the current one is active or not. And what we are going to do here is we are going to return a div with the class name image slide, single slide, and then here we are going to have the img with source image URL and alt as caption, and then class name as if it is active, so we'll have the active, otherwise nothing. Now if you notice, these slides can be reused over here in the listing as well when the images are being listed, because everything remains common over here. We'll just have to add the on click event, so you can reuse the slides over there also. Now that the slides are ready, let's render that. So here we'll get the images dot map with e and index, and I'm going to render the slides. We'll pass everything of the e, the key will be e dot caption, and active will be if I index equals to active. Now this active will receive as input. So this image slider, let's call it in the modal image slider, and then the active we have to pass, so that because the active state is maintained in this, right, so this active will be reflecting on the image listing as well as in the slider. That's why we are maintaining it over here in the parent component, and it will be passed down to both the child components. So we are already using it over here to determine the active one. We are going to pass it to the image slider as well. So if I click on this, you see that images are being listed in the modal, but because they are so huge, so what is happening is we are not able to see it properly. Let's add some CSS to the slides. So dot image slide, we are going to make width as 100%. And by default we are not going to display the images, only the active one. So dot image slide image dot, where have I added the class name. So this class name is on the image. Rather, let's pull it out and we'll add it on the parent only, so that we'll handle it better. So we'll say image slide dot active to display block. And now this should be the image, the active one. Sorry, or let's undo this because we are setting the property. Sorry, my bad. So the active one will be displayed. Now you are able to see the images, but what's there is a single image. We'll have to add the navigation button so that we can navigate through this. So if you are clicking on any of the images, that image is being previewed in the modal on the larger size. Sorry. So the remaining part is we just add the navigation button so that we can navigate through the images here in the lightbox itself, rather than going back and opening a particular one. So let's do that. We already have the navigation created. In this we'll have two spans. One will be ampersand greater than, which will be the next one. So class name is image navigation next, along with next. So we have two different classes, and there's a reason for that. So common properties will be in the image navigation and the particular properties will be in the next and previous classes, because those will be aligned to the two different ends. So that's why we are having these two different classes. So you see that this greater than and less than sign are appearing at the bottom. Now let's go to image slider navigation. So we are going to copy this class name image navigation. We are going to position them absolute, and then they will be top 50%, transform, translate y minus 50%, and then font size as 2em, 3em. Let's make it much bigger. And then we have cursor as pointer, and then the next will have right, so it will align to the right as 10 pixel, and dot left will be on the left side with the 10 pixel gap. So both should be aligned on one and second end. So here we have next and previous. Sorry. Now that our navigation are in place, it is little bit on the top. Let's adjust it. I think we don't have to do the transform at all, so it will come down. And if I do the transform to, let's say, 10%, so it is aligned in the center. 20 pixel. Do we see the gap? Yeah. So let's keep it 20 pixel. And now when you click on any of these, what should happen is the state should be updated and you should navigate through the images. So what we'll do is we'll listen to the event on next and on previous. And this will be passed to these two. So on click, we'll say that go to on previous, and here on click we'll say go to the next, and then these two functions should be passed. So on next should be handle next, and then on previous should be handle previous. Now in the next we'll navigate from the current index to the next index. So const handle next, and here we'll check if the active one is less than the images dot length. So we'll set active as active plus 1. Similarly, on handle previous, if active is greater than 0, then we are going to set active as active minus 1. So these two should do the navigation work. Okay, I'm moving to the next part. So see, when I move to the next image, when I click on the next button, it was reflected in the modal as well as on the image listing. So the border of the second image becomes blue. I move to third, fourth, fifth, sixth, and then on the seventh. So the seventh one was not there. That means our condition is not working. So that's why I'm subtracting one value in the handle next so that it should work. It should not go beyond the image's length. So again, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then after 6 nothing will happen. And if I navigate back, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and I'm not going beyond that. That means our lightbox is complete feature wise. It is working fine. So if you click on any of the images, that will appear in the modal. Otherwise, if you can navigate in the modal itself, that will be reflected in the parent component. Now one more thing we can do over here is the images are being appeared, right? So we can add a animation that they are fading in when we are navigating through. So let's do that in the style.css. When we navigate right in the modal and they become active, the image becomes active, we can have a so at the red keyframes, we'll add a animation over here, fade, and we'll say that it should go from opacity 0.4 to opacity 1. And then when it becomes active, right, we'll say animation name as fade. So it will pick the keyframes of the fade, and then animation duration, so it should be 0.75 seconds. Let's see if it is working fine or not. So if I open this, see, when I navigate, you see that the images are being fading in. So simple animation that we have added to make it little bit more interactive. So this is how you can create a lightbox in React. I hope you have learned something new today. Thank you for your time.